Okay. Yeah, so how are you doing? So I'm Abhi. I'm a student at the University of Illinois, and I'm just doing a research project on DJs, and I just wanted to get to know more about what it's like to be a DJ. Um,
Sure.
yeah, so we can start off just asking what kind of music do you usually DJ, and when did you start DJing? Uh,
I started DJing exactly 33 years ago. I think it was 1987. And I started DJing with basically house music. But now I play a lot of social events, weddings, things like that. So I play a lot of different music. It's not necessarily house music. It's mostly like, it's a variety of everything. Top 40, classic music, stuff for the bride, the groom, stuff for the older people, disco, you name it.
cool. Um, where are you located right now?
I'm in Montreal. I'm in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada.
Oh, cool, Montreal, Quebec. Nice.
I believe you're in Chicago.
Yeah, close to Chicago. It's like 2 hours south. I'm at the
Okay,
University of
I have family in Chicago.
Oh, cool. Cool. Yeah. So more about DJing. What do you like most about being a DJ? What do you enjoy about being a DJ?
It's just basically every aspect. It's fun to put music together, to mix it. It's fun to see people dancing, people enjoying themselves, and just you have to love music. And you have to love what you're doing. Basically, it's a lot of fun.
Nice. Um, so is DJing, would you consider yourself a professional DJ? Is it like your main career?
No, it's a sideline, but I'm professional in the sense where I've been doing it many years, and
I see.
Uh, yeah, I would consider myself a professional, but a part time. It's a as a revenue, it's part time. I mean, at the moment, no, because of the COVID-19. But other than before that, it was a part time thing.
Nice, nice. It's good, cool that you could still pursue this passion, even though you,
Yeah, basically that's what it is. It's a passion. You make some money, but if you don't really look at the dollar value because it's not what pays the bills. Not for me anyway.
yeah,
Uh, but it helps. It does help.
yeah. That's cool. So, what do you work as otherwise? Like, what's your main profession?
Well, well, right now we're not working. We're at home. It's been 6 months I'm home, but I was working for a clothing company where we manufacture men's clothing, like suits.
Mm, yeah. So, what do you think is the hardest part about being a DJ? What's most difficult?
Well, the hardest part is now it's not as hard, but back when I started with turntables, it was hard to put two beats together to make them sound flawless, not to make them sound like they're train wrecking. That would be the hardest part, even for a new DJ. A new DJ could beat match, but it's also the timing to know where to mix the song. Also, to know which songs to play. In the beginning, it's not that easy, and it also depends on your crowd. So that can be hard too. It's to please the crowd.
Yeah. How did you get better at that? Like, what's the key?
Better at what? At
Like,
which part?
the turntables you said is the hardest part, putting like the beats together, especially for
There was a lot of. I mean, they had schools for that back then, but it was just trial and error. Basically, it was. I
learning.
was at home, and every time I had free time, I would fool around with the turntables until it came to me. It just comes naturally if you persist at it. But now with the new equipment, it's not the case there. The software can beat match for you. It's just a question of getting to know where to mix it and stuff like that.
Yeah. So since you mentioned that, what kind of equipment and software do you use? Like what kind of turntables, what softwares? Um,
Well, myself, I still have my Technics 1200 turntables. It's 30 years I have them. This year, it's exactly 30 years I have them. They're rock solid. They don't break. But I mean, I use a MIDI controller as well, and I use two softwares. I use Tractor and I use Virtual DJ at the moment. And I use my turntables. I use like I still can mix vinyl. I still have all my 2000 records. Still, I haven't sold. But I also use what we call time codes. Basically, it's a record that just plays. It emulates vinyl. So it plays the songs that you have in your computer. But I also use MIDI controller. I use a controller too, which is to control your music basically. And I use an external mixer as well.
cool. Um, yeah, that's good to know. Do you have like a favorite piece of equipment, or what equipment do you think is the most useful um, out of all of them? Like if you need to DJ, what do you need there?
Well, you need basically a couple of things. You need speakers. Nowadays, it's quite easy because they're powered. You don't have to carry the amplifier. You would need a controller and basically a laptop. So those three things would be the bare minimum. Unless you buy yourself a standalone unit like Pioneer and Denon, they have a standalone unit where you just, all your music is in the unit. So you just, basically you would need just that standalone unit, which has a mixer built in and a controller and speakers. That's the two basic things you need. And also, well, one more thing, depending on what party you're doing. If you're doing a club party, not so much, but if you're doing a social event, you would need a microphone. And also, I would say earphones, but nowadays you can basically get away with mixing without earphones because of the software.
Yeah.
But it's best to have earphones to listen to your music before you play it.
Yeah. Do you ever have any like difficulties with the equipment, or like does it ever malfunction or something?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, back in the days when I was using turntables, sometimes, let's say, it happened that a mixer wasn't functioning, but you know, I had a backup mixer, so it was no problem. Or a needle would break. Like, you know, a couple of times I was with friends, and then they would have to go home and get their needle because they were DJs as well, so they would bring a needle. And one time I had a malfunction with my laptop. That really scared me. It wasn't reading my hard disk, so, but I knew what the problem was. It's because I had changed hard disk, and there was, I think by moving the laptop around, the contact wasn't done properly. So what I did was I asked the hotel to ask the maintenance department. So he brought a little screwdriver, and the maintenance guy knew about hard disk, so he put like a piece of cardboard under my hard disk to make it straight, and everything went well. The laptop booted up again. But basically, those were the difficulties I had, not more than that.
Nice. Okay, good to know. So, when you start DJing, how do you usually prepare for the set, or how do you decide which songs to play? Do you take song requests? What's like the process? Like when you show up at the venue, what do you do?
Okay, when I show up at the event, you mean after I hook up all my gear?
No, like before that. So you hook up all your gear first?
Well, I put my gear. Let's say I put my gear. I prepare the day before. I take out my gear. I put them. You know, get it ready to bring into the car. I bring it to the car. I show up at the event, and then at the event, I show up a couple of hours early because some people show up late. But I mean, I always show up very early in case of anything that can go wrong. So after that, basically, in the beginning, usually you play. Depending if it's a social event, there's just slow music or some jazz or some ambient music or just some, you know, cocktail music. Usually it's like that, and then later on it depends on the crowd. Later they eat, and then I guess you have the first dance. You have the first dance, and then after it depends what the crowd wants. You play some dance music later on, or some social music, some, you know, social dance music like some tangos or some waltzes or whatever. It depends on, you know, it depends on the nationality and the crowd too. You know, so be like that. You have to feel the crowd basically, and or sometimes it depends on the client. The client tells you, well, I want this right now. I want this music right now, or I want a certain song right now. But I do accept requests as well.
Cool. So during COVID, how has like your work with DJing changed? You said you haven't done anything. Have you done any?
Well, I've done some online streaming, but I haven't worked for any clients since COVID. Yeah, since a good 6 months.
So how do you stream online? Do you use Twitch or YouTube or
How do I keep on? Sorry.
how do you stream online? Sorry.
Oh, I was streaming on Facebook, but now Facebook doesn't want it anymore, so I switched to Twitch. And there's other services, but I use basically Twitch to stream.
Do you have any difficulties with that? Does it go smoothly? Do a lot of people show up to those? Or?
Well, it depends. Sometimes I get some people, but I mean, you have to really develop a following to get a lot of people. But it's because almost every DJ is doing it, so you can't expect to have a big crowd. It's just basically to keep yourself active, to practice, and also to pass time a bit because we're at home. I haven't worked in even at my other job. I haven't worked in 6 months, so you know it's a matter of keeping the hobby going and the passion going too, not to lose interest.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely.
And then, like I said, the couple of people that do show up, well, they, you know, like couple of the people that come there, they actually, them too, they're entertained. They like it. So, you know, it works both ways.
Nice. So uh, overall in your DJing experience, do you have like a specific story of what the worst experience was? Was it that hardware laptop malfunction time, or do you have like a
Well, there's that, and there's also the time where it doesn't happen very often, where a client maybe is not satisfied, or let's say, or you get some people that don't stop bothering you while you're DJing. You don't have time to play your music. They're always talking to you, or play this now, or do this now, or uh, things like that. I guess it would be things that most DJs would experience.
you have like
I haven't seen any. Well, actually, one time we had a power failure,
oh
but the power came back pretty quickly. But other than that, it doesn't get much worse than that. Not for me anyway.
okay okay so
It's
that
not like, let's say, my equipment broke where I couldn't function at all. It didn't. That never happened.
yeah, it seems like you always have extras and come on time or early, so it seems like you're pretty
Well, I mean, I always show up ahead of time, and I always bring a second laptop,
yeah.
and I have my phone too. I always put music on my phone too to make sure. So I have it's like a double or triple backup as you.
Yeah, do you have like do you have the playlists prepared ahead of time for the event, or does it depend on the
I
event?
always make certain playlists, and I always have some music, some go-to music in case, or some must plays where I know that certain songs I can play them at any event, and I know that people would like them or people would dance. I always have certain minimum playlists, but I don't always depend on them.
Yeah, that makes
But
sense.
for cocktail and like for dinner music, I have playlists because a lot of times I will be eating as well. So the tractor will, I mean, not tractor, sorry, virtual DJ or tractor, the software will actually auto mix. It will just play one song after another. I don't have to, let's say, necessarily stand behind my equipment
Mhm.
because it's just atmospheric music anyway. People are eating, they're not
Yeah,
really dancing or anything.
yeah, exactly. Makes sense. For your equipment, how much do you usually spend on that, or has it like you said it lasted you a long time? So are there like ongoing costs related to your equipment? Like you do you have to buy new needles often or such?
Well, I don't take my
How co-
turntables anymore. I just bring my controllers. So the equipment, it's just sometimes if I want to upgrade, I might have to spend. But basically, I'm always using the same equipment. So the cost, like the equipment doesn't really break or anything like that. It'll, let's say the equipment might break, like your mixer might last you 10, 20 years. So, or the speakers might break after 5, 10 years. So there's not much cost. It's just the questions of upgrading. It could be every 5, 10 years. It can be a couple of $1,000 maximum, let's say.
uh, um, okay, I think this is the last question I have. What do you think is your best experience DJing? Like, do you have a specific instance where you remember?
Yeah, well, best experience. I've had a couple of best experiences. It's when you have one of those larger parties, or sometimes it's a small party, and like everything goes smoothly. Every song you play, the crowd goes crazy. Or I've had cases where the client was so happy that he would give me a huge tip. But it would be basically that's every DJ's dream is to show up at an event where everybody's happy and there's a lot of energy, because sometimes you get to those parties where there's not one person that dances. It doesn't mean that the party didn't go well. Sometimes it's the crowd. The crowd doesn't really want to dance. It's not, but that's the ideal situation is when you show up and there's a lot of energy and everybody's happy and everybody's satisfied, and the music, and they like your music.
Nice. Okay. When you play music, do you have to download all the music ahead of time, or do you play from online as well sometimes?
Well, up to now, I haven't had any experience with playing music online. I always go and get my songs ahead of time. We have record pools where we pay a certain fee, and you get whatever they give you for the month. Let's say you
Nice.
take a subscription for a month. Let's say you pay $20. Well, you get unlimited whatever they have. They have huge libraries. You take whatever you want or whatever you need. But I am planning in the future to go online because now it's becoming very popular. But it would depend on the venue. If the venue has a strong enough Wi-Fi connection, it's always an extra, you know, where if you don't have the song that the crowd is looking for, somebody asks for a request, you can always go get it. So that would be something I'm planning on trying in the future, but maybe after COVID ends.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have. Thank you for taking the time to interview with me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was really informative and helpful.
Well, I'm glad I can help.
Yeah. Is there anything you have or any questions you have for me?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, you're doing this as a school project, or is it
Yeah.
also that you're interested in DJing?
I mean, I'm doing it as a school project, but I chose this topic because I'm interested as well. So it's cool to speak to experience.
Okay, are you interested in learning, or do you already do it?
No, I don't already do it. I would be interested in learning. I don't know if I have the time right now during the school year, but you know, in the future, it's something that
Is that for college or something like that?
yeah, it's for college.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you interviewed other people?
Yeah, I've interviewed one other person, and I'm in a group of 4 people, and they're interviewing other people as well.
Yeah. And would you say that they have similar experiences to what I've mentioned?
Yeah, definitely. I think.
I guess it's all the same, except obviously we're all different, but I guess it's all the same concept.
Yeah, it's the same idea, but everyone has like those small like differences in how they.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's particular. Everybody has a certain way of doing things. Yeah, but
Yeah.
basically, we're just there to entertain people. Basically, it's our job.
Yeah, nice. Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I can stop the